This is KGW News at Sunrise.
This morning on Sunrise, 1,000 homes still threatened by wildfire in Wasco County, but some near its path say they're feeling grateful for the quick work of firefighters.
Good morning, I'm Thomas Schultz at Legacy Mount Hood Medical Center. Across the Portland metro area, thousands of patients may have been exposed to HIV or hepatitis. We'll tell you what went wrong.
We weren't sure if we were going to make it, and things were really hard, but we had supporters around the state who really rallied around us to help make sure this organization continued.
What we have here is a local underdog story complete with a comeback ending. It's like a local Rocky, Rod.
Yes.
You ready for this?
Yeah.
Special Olympics Oregon hosting its Summer State Games this weekend for the first time in 7 years. Why it took so long to bring the games back and how the organization rallied to make sure they wouldn't go away for good. That's coming up here at 6:45.
I like that. Feeling good on a Friday.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes, please, Friday.
Sunshine just keeps going. I mean, it's toasty in the afternoon, and it will be continued to be so through the weekend. Let's get you to the weather map. There it is, the rising sun on a Friday. We're mainly clear outside. Temperatures at 58 degrees. Some of you are in the low 50s. So at least the nights, for folks that don't crank the AC, the nights are starting to offer some relief, so that's good news. Here's your day moving forward. Pretty comfortable morning, 77 degrees at noon. And then once again, you get in the mid-afternoon, the heat starts to get cranked up. I have us stopping at 89. The high temperature yesterday was 86 degrees. Your weekend forecast, of course, is coming up.
Thank you, Rod. Now to a quick traffic alert. This weekend, ODOT is shutting down a 5-mile stretch of I-84 in Portland between I-5 and I-205. Crews are going to clean up garbage and graffiti. The closure will start around 11 tomorrow and last until noon on Sunday. ODOT is also planning to add better lighting along that stretch. The MAX red, blue, and green lines will also be disrupted by this shutdown. Well, the Oregon Health Authority is working with 3 local hospitals where 2,000 patients may have been exposed to hepatitis or HIV.
2 are Providence hospitals. The other is a Legacy facility. KGW's Thomas Schultz is covering this story for us live from Legacy Mount Hood Medical Center. So, Thomas, let's get right to the big question. How could something like this happen?
Yeah, well, Drew, Legacy says it's all due to a single contracted provider who started providing care here at Legacy in December, so around 6 months. 2,400 patients within the Legacy and Providence systems have been notified of the breach. That includes 2,200 people seen at Providence Willamette Falls Medical Center in Oregon City, 2 patients at Providence Portland, and 221 here at Legacy Mount Hood Medical Center. In a statement, Providence says they were notified of a similar breach also due to a single anesthesiologist. They didn't give dates of exposure. Now, the possible exposures happened while patients were getting anesthesia through an IV. A doctor contracted through the Oregon Anesthesiology Group is accused of not following infection control practices. The anesthesiologist no longer works for the group. Providence says patients were put at low risk of exposure to hepatitis and HIV, and out of an abundance of caution, they're urging patients to get blood tests at no additional cost. If a patient does test positive, Providence says they will reach out to then discuss those next steps. Now, the Oregon Health Authority says at this time they don't have any reports of illnesses relating to this possible breach. The Oregon Anesthesiology Group says that they're also putting new policies and procedures in place to ensure something like this, affecting thousands of people, never happens again. Guys?
Thank you so much, Thomas. Firefighters working on the Larch Creek fire in Wasco County got some help overnight from the cooler temperatures and higher humidity. Last estimate put the fire at more than 10,000 acres burned. About 1,000 homes southwest of Dufur now sit in one of the 3 evacuation levels. The latest areas to be evacuated include the Pine Hollow and Wamak communities. Firefighters, which include crews from the Portland Metro, say keeping those houses safe is their top priority. 2 outbuildings have burned, but so far all homes have been saved. We spoke to a Tag Valley resident whose home came within feet of the approaching fire line.
What saved everything here was the amount of people that came in to help. It was unbelievable. I mean, we had more firefighters and hotspot guys, and they were all over this. They jumped on it and got the DC-10s in, and it was like amazing.
Good news there. The fire started Tuesday afternoon and was determined to be human-caused, but exactly how it began is still under investigation.
We're also tracking another wildfire, this one in eastern Oregon in Malheur County. The Cow Valley Fire has already burned 20,000 acres since it started yesterday morning, and it remains 0% contained. State officials say 30 to 50 homes in Brogan are threatened at this point, and people living there should make plans to evacuate if they haven't already. A shelter is already set up at the Malheur County Fairgrounds. We have the address for the fairgrounds right there on your screen.
That I think I'm the most qualified person to run for president. I beat him once, and I will beat him again.
That is President Biden telling the country, and more specifically, members of his own party, that he is still fit to run for re-election. But after that news conference that he held yesterday, 3 more House Democrats called on President Biden to withdraw from the race. The president spoke at the closing of the NATO summit, and he pointed to his strengthened alliances with world leaders. But the questions that followed all that really focused on his fitness to serve. The president said he's taken 3 intense neurological exams, the most recent of which was in February, and they show that he's still in good shape. But last night's speech also featured some missteps, including one that he made when asked about Vice President Kamala Harris.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president.
President Biden is headed to Michigan today as his campaign for re-election pushes forward.
Well, Washington Representative Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez added her voice to those publicly expressing doubts about the president before he spoke last night. In a statement, Gluesenkamp-Perez implied President Biden should no longer be in office, a decision she came to after speaking with those in her district, which, keep in mind, she did flip from red to blue in 2022. Now, Gluesenkamp-Perez saying, quote, like most people I represent in Southwest Washington, I doubt the president's judgment about his health, his fitness to do the job, and whether he is the one making important decisions about our country rather than unelected advisors. She goes on to say Americans deserve to feel their president is fit enough to do the job. The crisis of confidence in the president's leadership needs to come to an end. The president should do what he knows is right for the country and put the national interest first.
On the heels of our heat wave the past week, the city of Gresham is getting over $4.5 million in federal and state funding to address what's called heat island mitigation. And they're addressing it by planting more trees. The numbers show that urban areas with no shade can generally get 8 to 10 degrees hotter during heat events compared to spots that are developed with more trees. The Rockwood neighborhood of Gresham is a good example of an area that would certainly benefit from more tree shade.
We have just such a high need in Gresham with low canopy cover. So any kind of funding for our West Gresham Rockwood area is something that the city has needed for a long, long time.
The city of Gresham says it's also planning to introduce 30 to 40 tree wells along Powell Boulevard. So there you go, Rod Hill. I thought your explanation last hour was a good one for people who aren't familiar with the East Coast or the Deep South, where, man, you cannot escape the heat in a shaded area.
Where did you grow up?
Around here.
Around here?
Yeah, so I mean, I actually went to Tennessee for the first time.
So some humidity
not
there.
that long ago, and I was a little bit in shock.
Here you can escape the heat in a shaded spot.
Right.
Other parts of the country, the shade does not really make a difference.
No, it doesn't. But the shade is absolutely a big deal. So imagine yourself, if you don't have AC and you're going outdoors and you're walking through a shaded area in the afternoon versus bright sunshine. It's a huge difference. That study said 8 to 10 degrees.
Right.
Now keep in mind, I'm assuming that takes the average of the overnight low and the daytime high. It's not saying I'm assuming it's not saying it's 8 degrees hotter during the days. I don't think that would be right. But here's a look at our satellite imagery for today. We have, well, it's hard to see, but there are low clouds making up along the coast this morning once again. Otherwise, we are all clear. I want to remind you, if you are traveling or you're watching us from out east, good morning to you. Still, the excessive heat warning is this pinkish tone, which includes Baker City down through all of Malheur County, where temperatures will be about 100 degrees today. The orange is for mid to upper 90s in central Oregon and the Columbia Basin out toward Pendleton, Umatilla County for temperatures in the mid to upper 90s. So still a lot of areas dealing with uncomfortable heat. This is the smoke map, And notice we're starting to pick up. You've probably noticed this yourself the last couple of days. A little bit of smoky haze, even here on the west side from some smaller blazes. We've got the smoke plume near the Larch Creek fire around Dufur in Wasco County, and the biggest plume of smoke is the one in northern Malheur County. That's that fire that's burned over 20,000 acres. And by the way, this modeling, when it shows you these orange and even the yellow colors, that's basically smoke so thick that it is an overcast day for the most part. And of course, that adds to air quality concerns. All right, I mentioned the clouds along the coast. Here's Cannon Beach live, and it's cloudy. It's 55 degrees. There's the inn at Ottercrest. So this is south of Depot Bay, big property looking to the south down in Lincoln County. So today we do have clouds blanketing all of the coastal communities. We'll look for at least some partial clearing during the day. So far, not seeing the clouds come up the Columbia into the Kelso-Longview area. This is in Kelso at Three Rivers Golf Course. Looks like they've been doing some watering, but it's waking up to a clear sky morning up there. Fun golf course to play, Three Rivers, if you've never been up there and checked it out. All right, we have temperatures in the 50s along the coast, 55 in Kelso, mid-50s in Salem, so at least the nights are starting to offer some relief with the windows open, right, to cool down. Still 66 in the Dalles, still 70 up in Wenatchee this morning. Forecast numbers for today, let's get you to them. I think you folks in Salem at least hit 90. You're at 91 today. McMinnville, 90 degrees. Breezes continue to be from the northwest. Battleground 87, Vancouver 88, only 83 up there in Longview today, so that's pretty nice. And here are the numbers for Portland through the weekend. There's just not a lot of variance. You look at the forecast models, temperatures are bouncing between 2 to 3 degrees most days of being exactly the same. 89 today, 91 tomorrow, 88 Sunday. I do have an 86 degree Monday, but I've got a 94 degree Wednesday. Still no 70s and still no days expected even with highs in the low 80s. So it's going to be uncomfortably warm if you're out working in the afternoons.